Hello and welcome to Good Game Grandstand, the radio show for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjo and I'm here to talk about that magic place where sport and interactive entertainment collide. And I'm not alone. This month I'm joined again by editor at Game Arena and lovable scamp, Job Gilroy, and for the first time and hopefully not the last, Kotaku AU editor, extraordinary man, Mark Serrels.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
How have you guys been going? How's things?
Good. Things are going awesome.
I'm glad you're both excellent, and later in the show we're going to be talking about the latest UFC Undisputed 3 and meeting one of Australia's top iRacing drivers as well, who also races in real life. But first, I think we should talk about SSX.
This is just the sort of place your average snowboarder lives for. But we're not your average snowboarders, we're SSX.
Watch your line, stay focused. You're halfway home. You follow instructions like a Russian. Perfect run, my friend. This cold is nothing to you. I'm going to give that one 2 thumbs up. Way up.
Riding up here is one of the worst ideas in the long sad history of bad ideas.
SSX stands for Snowboarding, Surfing and Motocross. The first title in the series was released over 10 years ago for the PlayStation 2, and it's a ridiculously over-the-top snowboarding game, which, despite the name, contains no surfing or motocross whatsoever. It's been 5 years since the last in the franchise, and Job, I know you've been playing a bit of it, and how have you found this latest installment?
I've had my ups and downs with it. I've enjoyed, the idea of playing a great new snowboarding game. It's been a while since we've seen a good snowboarding game, but I've got my issues with it as well. There's parts of it that are not really, working for me, I guess.
What don't you like about it?
There's elements like to right yourself when you're falling, you simply let go of the controls. You don't actually have to set yourself straight, like in, say, a Tony Hawk or one of the other boarding games. You just let go and it will self-right. And to me, that takes away a little bit of the challenge. It becomes less about making sure you're doing the correct trick and more about just letting go at the right time.
Well, do you think it could open it up, though, for people to spend more time playing with the tricks as opposed to trying to worry about just landing, which I always found quite hard in those games?
Well, I think if you look at the success of the Tony Hawk series before they started to milk it into oblivion, I think that people are keen to make tricks work the way they want to. Or if you look at the skate series as well, where you don't even get to do the super big tricks. People are happy to just make something work as opposed to do something completely crazy. So, I'm not convinced that accessibility necessarily means simplification.
What do you think they've done right with this one?
So you've got to look at the way that they've made the graphics and use the satellite imagery to map out these massive tracks on real world locations, and that's fantastic. It looks great, and you get this sense that you are really powering down a quite lifelike mountain, which is quite good.
What do you think about the tutorial?
Yeah.
The falling through the sky and just being able to do whatever you want. I think all games should start with a tutorial like that.
I agree. I thought that was really good. I thought, I had a lot of fun just trying. I think I spent a good 3 or 4 minutes after the tutorial ended just goofing around and doing extra tricks. That's good, yeah.
Mark, what was the last snowboarding game you played?
The last snowboarding game I played was... Oh my god. Don't know.
Did you enjoy the
snowboards and bit and journey?
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool, but
Nice.
that's not even snow, that's sand. Last one I played was the one on the Xbox. What was it called
Amped?
again? Amped, that was it. And I loved that game, and that game reviewed terribly for some reason, but I sort of liked the more... I like it when a game like this feels rewarding, when landing a trick feels important, no matter how simple it is, which is why I love Skate compared to, say, Tony Hawk, which is just, I don't know what that is, it's goddamn
It's very arcadey.
Yeah, mad arcadey, exactly. Yeah. So I really love AMPed, and I haven't even had the chance to crack the seal on SSX yet. So
right.
If we're going to go off topic just for a sec, Tony Hawk it was such an institution for skateboarding games, and they do feel quite similar in the way you play, in the mechanics of it, at least on some level. What do you think's happened to Tony Hawk? Why do we hear that name? Do we kind of go, oh, another Tony Hawk game? Why do we feel like that?
Do you think the blame sits more with Tony Hawk Ride, which was a monumental failure, or is it just due to market saturation? We've had, how many did we get over a series of 10 years?
Yeah, we had
Tony 11.
When it went to Tony Hawk, like the game just went crazy. It went too extreme. It went down the jackass route instead of being a game that was fun to play. Whereas like Tony Hawk 3 was first and foremost like such an incredibly, amazingly balanced video game, more than a skateboarding game. Really, it was a mad button pushing exercise. It was just that was awesome, I sort of missed that instead of meeting Bam Margera and having to do handstands or whatever and vomiting up boiled eggs. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like SSX has definitely become an accessible game, and it has some craziness to it. So it sounds like there's some plus and minuses with it. But one thing this game doesn't have, which is becoming a bit of a trend, is no split screen. And do you think this is a sad thing?
I lament the demise of split screen. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I don't care.
Yeah?
No one plays split screen anymore. I'm a grown man. Like if I was 10 years old and I had a little brother who hassling me to play this game, fine. I might do it. I might beat him up. I don't know. But like at the same time, I just feel like that's gone. I'm not interested in that anymore. I don't care about split screen.
Is it because online connectivity is so easy to do now?
Absolutely. There's that, and I'm really antisocial and I hate people.
The online in SSX is really good. So I guess if anything that makes up for it a little bit. It's very easy, even not necessarily connected at the same time. Online features, Ghost Data and stuff like that. You can race your friends, sort of like the speed wall in Need for Speed and stuff like that. You don't have to be online at the same time, which certainly helps it a lot. But I don't know. I like being able to sit down with my friends and hit each other while you're surfing. Snowboarding down down a mountain. I miss that a little bit.
I think there's definitely a thing to be said for that moment when you and your friends are all in a house and you're all huddled around the TV and you're drinking or whatever, but I prefer like pass the controller for that, and I think a game like SSX works like that as well, beat my score, beat my time.
Well, if you're going to give it a score overall, Joe, what would you give SSX?
I think I'd give it a 7.
The safety score.
The safety score. Thank you. I really feel that it has its downfalls, but at the end of the day, it is a fun way to play snowboarding.
Good game.
You're listening to Good Game Grandstand, and coming up we'll share our views on the latest UFC Undisputed. But first, I'd like to welcome Justin Regia to the studio. Hello, Justin. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Now, you are an elite iRacer. Can you tell us a little bit about what that entails?
Look, what it entails, it's iRacing is the premier online gaming or sim racing game. So basically, all the real race drivers, a lot of obviously internet gamers and that get on there, and we have so many races, it's not funny. So,
and how often do you race?
Look, to be honest with you, I try and race. If I can, I'd race every day, every minute. But I don't think work would come to that. But look, I race definitely twice a week, 100%. There's a V8 Supercars series that we do. So it's highly intense.
How long are these sessions that you sit down and race for? You're talking like 20 minutes, right? Just jump in, go around the track a couple
of
times.
I wish it was that simple, but it isn't. Look, give you an indication, I did do a race last night. I did sneak one in, and I was on the computer for 6 hours, pretty much straight.
What's the longest race you've ever done?
Longest race, about 12 hours.
Wow.
12 hours.
How do you go to the bathroom? How do you eat?
You
what
don't,
do you do?
But I tell you what, you got a numb bum, put it that way. You're just numb as. So, look, I really enjoy doing it. So.
And you race in real life as well?
Yes, I do. Currently, I'm racing the Aussie racing cars. I do a lot of karting as well. But look, obviously, in the future, with more funds available, I do want to progress to the Porsche Carrera Cup Series. That's something that I'll be working at.
When you say karting, I think of go-karts. Is that what you mean?
Yes,
okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, basically, I suppose it's the elite of karting, which is a 6-speed, 125, 50 horsepower, 175 kilos.
Wow.
And with me in it,
So not your
Basically,
weekend
0 to
back down the
100.
tracker. This is a proper serious.
Yeah, serious bit of git. And the thing is, it's a worldwide known series too, the KZ2 class. Basically from a standing start to 100 and probably just over 3 seconds. So they get going.
Wow. Do you find that playing iRacing improves your work in the real life track? Is this what this game is really for?
Look, I'll be honest with you. From having been on both sides, it definitely helps me doing a lot of sim racing. Why? Basically because of racecraft, understanding being patient behind the wheel, understanding being consistent. Look, being fast for one lap doesn't really achieve anything, but being fast for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, that's what impresses teams, and that's what gets you up there. Also, the other side of the fence, when you actually are racing in real life and you're not the fastest, doesn't necessarily mean you can't win. The guys at the front might have a smash, you being patient, you wait, they come off the track, you collect the win. That's what it's all about.
So you'd say it's more about stamina and consistency as opposed to having a really good corner.
There's people out there that win championships that don't necessarily win all the races, but they're very smart. It's like a strategic way of racing, and that's what it's done for me. I used to be hot-headed. I suppose you have accidents that weren't really needed. Now it's sort of sit back, collect the points. You want to be the winner after all. You want to take the cup, if you know what I mean.
Tell us about your setup to play this game. Because this is a proper simulation game. We'll get into the specifics of what that entails. But tell us about your particular setup. How do you sit down to play this?
Well, look, it's come a long way. I started with an ironing board with a steering wheel hooked up, and a chair that moved around when you hit the brake pedal. But now it's got a lot more serious. We've got multiple screens, a homemade simulator with a proper race seat, a G27 wheel, G27 pedals. I've actually bought Club Sport pedals now. So it's starting to get really full on because of the competitiveness that's out there right now. So you need to have the best kit to be up the front.
And tell us, how much did this setup cost you, if you could put a figure on it?
Look, to be honest with you, I couldn't put a number on it. I don't want to think about it, to be honest with you. But look, to be honest with you, to be fast and to get involved, it's pretty cheap. And necessarily you don't have to have the big end stuff, right? But obviously after a long while, if you want to be comfortable in the seat for 12 hours, you need to be comfortable, right? You need to have the good gear to last that long as well. So,
I just want to get back to this. Surely at one point you've needed to go to the bathroom during a session.
A lot of
times.
A lot of times.
Do you have someone to sub in, or?
I suppose I might have to make a bottle up or something. I don't know. But,
it's obviously take it quite seriously. Speaking of butts, what's a butt kicker?
That's a device that you put that allows for force feedback that you can put underneath your seat. And so you can actually feel the ripple strip and stuff like that when you hit them.
Well, there you go. Something new for me.
Joe, you seem to know a lot about the technical aspects of how this game has been crafted and created. Could you tell us about how much of a simulation is this game?
iRacing is literally the craziest of all the racing sims. That's probably a little dismissive of what you like to do, but seriously, they go down to tracks and they use lasers to map out every centimeter of a track. They'll take 3 days to map out all of a track, and you'll get every single bump on a track that you just aren't going to get in any other game. And it's crazy, but it pays off. And iRacing, is you look at the championships, the V8 Supercar Championship that's being run at the moment, and you can see the payoff. The best races are definitely people who understand the track a lot better. Is
there a competitor to this out there? Is there another simulation racing game that you would play over iRacing or instead of?
Oh, there's a couple. None quite offer the same. Like, they all offer slightly different things. So you've got R Factor, and R Factor is another hardcore sim. It's not quite as online as iRacing, and iRacing controls things a lot more. Controls cars and stuff like that. But R Factor is infinitely moddable. So if you wanted to play with V8 supercars, you download the mod V8 Factor and you could play on Bathurst in a V8 car. You'd be spending, iRacing is a subscription model, right? Yes. So V8 Factor is a one-time purchase.
Justin, do you know many V8 drivers who take part in this, or other professional drivers that do this on a regular basis?
Look, definitely there are a lot more coming to it right now. Shane Van Gisberg's on there. We race him every Monday night. Scott McLaughlin. There's Fabian Coulthard that just joined up. Brad Jones's son, a well-known V8 identity out there. So a lot of them, this is why it's a really good time to be part of this, because there's so many guys now, including myself, that race, that are on there, and you can, people that can't race can race the real drivers and have that, go to school or go to work. Guess who I raced last night? Guess who I beat last night?
Yeah. So it's a pretty exciting feeling racing against these professional players.
Of course.
And can you feel it? Can you feel their skills?
Look, there is definitely tension there, 100%. And we all share setups. But I'd like to see what the real setup is, because I tell you what comes through that internet cable into me isn't what they're running. I'll tell you that now.
And what about people like me who would pick up this game and probably drive straight into a wall? I need a good boost in there. Would I be able to sit down and play it, or would I be able to at least spectate one of these races?
You can definitely spectate, and you definitely can obviously join, and you can be part of it. That's for sure. I suppose the thing is to race the elite drivers, it's going to take time for you to understand the car, to be as quick. And because there's so many, that only a certain amount of people can race in one race. I think it's only 20 of us can race at a time. So there's different splits. But, I didn't get into the first split at first. It took me a bit of time, and now I'm up there all the time. So
what would happen if someone comes in who's new and they cause a massive pile-up? How upset does this community get?
Look, I'll be honest with you. They get very upset. And to the point where you get banned, you get reported. Look, they take it very seriously. And look, our races are they're live streamed, and we've got commentary. So this is the way this world's going. It's changed big time since I started. So it's very competitive.
Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask one more question. If you could see this iRacing evolve further, if there's one part of it you think could be better graphically or whatever, what would you choose to make this game better than what it is now?
Look, to be honest with you, what I would like to see is more Australian tracks. Something for me, when I go to a new track, for instance, like Homebush, when I raced there last year, I didn't know the track, obviously, because I've never been there. With R Factor, I downloaded the track, downloaded the Aussie car or a similar car, and to give you a comparison, I did a 143.9 on the sim. In real life, 144.4. Whoa! Yeah. This gives you an indication. I knew every bump. I knew my braking points. So to answer your question, I want to see more Australian tracks out there. So if I download the car, I'm able to sort of do laps before I get there, and it's in my head where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So that's my only comment. Apart from that, it's great. Fantastic.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Justin, and talking about iRacing.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good game. And we are underway. Oh, big right hand, he's down. I can't believe he got back to his feet, and he is hurt badly. Huge left and right. Those are snapping his head back, Mike. Hitting away. Nice body shot and then hook combination. All right. Look there. That one dropped him. He's hurt. He's hurt. And again, it is all over. That is as vicious a display of ground and pound that you and I have seen in a long time. That was very, very nasty.
You're listening to Good Game Grandstand, and that was some gameplay sound from UFC Undisputed 3, which is a mixed martial arts game featuring fighters from the real-life Ultimate Fighting Championship. This game is not something you can kind of jump into straight away, and I'd like to talk about how that is the case. And let's start with you, Joe. What is this game about, and why does it hurt my face to play it?
I think the challenge is representing Ultimate Fighting, or MMA rather, in a form that can be translated into a control pad, right? So you've got a limited amount of buttons. So at some point they had to put some of the controls onto a thumbstick and basically tie it to quarter circle turns, and that significantly ramps up how difficult it is to play, because you've got basically three different games in UFC. You've got the stand-up game where you punch each other in the face until someone falls over. You've got the clinch game where you hold onto the back of a person's head and then you knee them in the face until someone falls over. And then you have the ground game where you sit on top of a person and you punch them in the face until they don't fall over, but they don't get back up.
Yeah. I know you're both big fans of this game. Mark, tell us, why do you love it?
I love it because like I love UFC and I love martial arts, and like Joby says, you know, MMA is really complicated, you know, because you have it's mixed martial arts. There's more than one of them. So you have kickboxing, you have wrestling, and you have jiu-jitsu. So, like you said, multiple different things to represent. And they've done such a good job of juggling like 50 balls in the air at one time and sort of not dropping any, which is what makes the UFC game so clever and so good, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
They've really worked at getting every single part of the real life world into this game. Can you tell us about some of the simulation elements here, which set it apart from your standard kind of boxing and wrestling games?
Yeah, well, when you play Fight Night, for example, you're just standing there, you know, jabbing each other's face until someone, you know, falls over, like Joe said. So, you know, representing fighting is very easy because in that way it's just push a button and you punch them in the face. Push this button, you kick them in the face. But like the ground game in mixed martial arts is like a chess game. It's really intense and it's really subtle. So it's all about position and who's on top and who's on what position on top, etc., etc. So they have to represent in that, and making a game from that is next to impossible because it's so subtle and intense. You know, that's why I think, you know, the UFC games are so attractive to UFC fans in particular because they've done a good job of that.
Have you guys played against each other yet?
Oh, you would smash me.
not this time. No.
What makes you so good at it, Joe?
I think it'd be
Button mashing.
Button mashing. It's all button mashing. No, it's a lot of practice, and there's a lot of thinking like you would if you were in an MMA fight. You know, obviously, I can't necessarily speak to being in the octagon, but a lot of it involves feinting and leg kicks and faking a person out and trying to trick them into making the wrong move so you can capitalize on it.
And does this faking actually work? Because it's so subtle, these movements. Can you tell when someone is coming towards you enough to... Did they telegraph it enough for you to kind of counter these movements?
Absolutely you can, and that's a huge part of the game. And a lot of my fights with people who are better at the game will just wind up being quite a lot of counters until someone winds up making a mistake, and then it's all over.
I think it's kind of like poker. You know, when you play poker with someone that's really good, you're sort of both thinking at that level, so that game works. But then you play poker against someone who's really stupid, and they don't know what they're doing, and they become even more unpredictable. You have no idea. Are they bluffing? Are they just absolutely stupid? So I think there's an element of that. If you know you're playing against someone who's good at the game, that sort of extra layer of strategy, is bluffing or double bluffing, comes into play a bit more.
I find it with many fighting games, isn't it? If you're playing against a pro, you can almost predict them in a way. But if you're playing against a button masher, then you've got, it's almost harder even to try and work out what they're trying to do. Well, it sounds like they've done a pretty good job of recreating the UFC experience. But is UFC, is it real? You know, is it real? Is it staged? I don't want to break anyone's bubble here, but I'm not very experienced with it, and I don't know. Is what you're recreating here a real thing?
I don't even know. That's a crazy question. You're asking questions like the noob who plays poker.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
So unpredictable.
For real.
Well, let's move on. Well, we spoke to Nevin Dravinsky, the producer of UFC Undisputed 3, who was in town recently, and we talked about the control system and the changes they've made.
Well, I think you touched on a very good point. I mean, we recognize we have a deep technical fighting game, and it requires technical, nuanced controls. And if you're not the most hardcore UFC or MMA fan, we recognize that, you know, we can tend to lose people in that first experience if they're trying to get into the game and have fun but aren't willing to learn the nuance of our control scheme. You know, and that's something we look to avoid in UFC Undisputed 3. We've introduced what we call an alternate amateur control scheme for new users. So all the transitions in the clinch and the ground game, for example, to advance your position or get out of a bad position, are simply done with flick up, flick down on the right stick. Not to say that you have an advantage using that control scheme. It is, in fact, the quote-unquote amateur control scheme. Playing at a high level, you know, more advanced users using the classic or pro controls will have much more of an advantage in terms of reversing their opponents or being able to fake transitions, etc., etc. But we're really focused on getting more people playing and having fun while they're playing, because the game at its core is very fun. Even if you don't like UFC or MMA, it's still a great fighting game. It's still an incredible combat game. And so, our new control scheme, a lot of really cool in-game educational elements have been added to really bring more people into the Undisputed world.
Nevin's talked there about how they've made this game more accessible. From my personal experience, it wasn't really. When I sat down to play this, it was 2 hours of tutorials, and then I still just ended up button mashing that punching to the face. Do you think they could make this accessible to your average gamer, or do you think it needs to be at this level of simulation for it to actually work as a game?
I understand your pain. Like I sympathise, but at the same time, I have played this game with people who know nothing about UFC, and what they tend to do is just ignore the wrestling and the ground game and just punch each other in the face until someone falls over. So I think there's still that element of let's play this because we're both in the house and we're a bit drunk. That still works for UFC. Despite the fact you don't know everything in every in-depth detail.
Well, you've still got, party rules, so you can still ban taking people down and wrestling. But at the same time, it's still got a little bit more to it than Fight Night because you can kick people in the face as well. So, it's a little bit further.
It's brutal. Do you think those kicks to the face, those knees, they are so brutal. Tell us, do you think this one is this the best UFC game we've seen? How does it compare to the others?
It's definitely the best UFC game we've seen.
I agree.
Yeah.
Just in what terms?
In terms of taking it. Look, the best thing about UFC 3 is Pride mode. In that
yes.
Suddenly you can stomp people in the face. It's as brutal as kicking people in the face is, stomping people in the face is so much worse.
You can treat their head like a soccer ball.
Is that true?
Soccer kicks,
yeah.
and that's a personal favourite of mine.
Truly horrific.
Do you think this kind of action that you're doing in these games is doing much for the advancement of video games, or
no less than the advancement of MMA in general is doing to human culture, I guess.
So it sounds like it's a brutal game that is emulating a very brutal sport.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job of that. What would you rate it?
I give it a 9.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't give game scores, man.
Oh, rebel.
Yeah. I give it 947,000 out of 1,000,000.
We've talked about this before, and I don't want to get too much into it, but why don't you give a game score?
I will give it a score 9.
Thank you. Mark Searles from Kotaku AU, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Joe Gilroy from Game Arena, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Good game.
And that's it for Good Game Grandstand this month. If you have any comments or advice about us on the radio or the telly, then please jump to the Good Game Facebook page or the Grandstand one and leave your thoughts. You can watch Good Game on the telly 8:30pm Tuesday nights on ABC2, and we'll make today's show available for download from the Good Game website as well. And we will return next month with more from the wonderful world of sports video games. So until then, may all your games be good ones. Bye, Joe out.